Thank you for joining us for this conversation about Sanity's Edge. It's a song on the album Another Universe. My name is Vickie Maris. I'm the writer of that song, and I'm in the studio with recording engineer Michael Kelsey. Hi, Michael.
Hello.
And Scott Greeson.
Hi there.
Scott in his, I'm not sure which voice that was.
That was my official voice.
Okay. Scott, one of my fellow songwriters. Michael Kelsey, one of my fellow songwriters. I'm going to jump in here during the edit of this episode to let you know this is part one of a two-part episode. So you've just heard the voices of Scott Greeson and Michael Kelsey, who were in the studio with me for recording episode one about Sanity's Edge. Then I held a conversation with Courtney Von Drehle for the podcast. Courtney played the accordion track in the recorded version of Sanity's Edge. So our conversation is the part two of the two-part episode about the song Sanity's Edge. I invite you to check out the lyric video for Sanity's Edge. You can find that on the YouTube channel at Vickie Maris Music. Okay, let's jump into the conversation with Michael and Scott. This is the part one of the part two episode here in the series, Making of the Album, Another Universe. It's an honor to get to share some of the behind the scenes about Sanity's Edge and how that song came into being, the inspiration behind it, the way the song lyrics kind of poured out one morning, and then how it came together when we were here in this very studio. I've had a few people ask me, Michael, you might have even been one of the people that asked me, like, how'd you decide to put it in that key? There was not any big plan about it other than I thought, I don't think I've ever written a song that uses a C2. And I had been using that in a cover song, and I like this. I think it's technically, I don't know, you might have to help me with this, a C2 add 9 maybe?
See, whatever instincts made you go like, hey, here's a chord. I mean, sometimes that's where the songs come from, is because when you pick up an instrument, what do? You do the same things. Your hands go into the same position that they always do. Mm-hmm. And then the same things come out. There's nothing inspiring about that. So even if you were thinking about it, you're like, well, what about this? And doesn't that just start something new? It just ignites something, mm-hmm. and which triggers the next thing. So it's almost like if I pick up the guitar in the morning on purpose, I will just try to go, put your hand someplace else that you don't normally put it on. And sometimes, usually, if you start someplace different, I kind of get inspired in the moment. It just wakes you up. It wakes mm-hmm. something up about you, as opposed to just doing the robotic things that we do all the time. It's just like, just be conscious, be in the moment, and open yourself to something new. And you did that probably mm-hmm. just by thinking. So even though it sounds technical, like you were just doing it for the sake of using a different chord, but that was the tool that started the avalanche, mm-hmm. That everything started to trigger everything.
It was a lot like that. I had not, other than that cover song where I had started learning that chord position.
C9th, by the way. I think it's a
is a
ninth,
C9.
Right? I don't know.
We'll
go back later and figure it out.
Here's me, not highly technical guitar person, but I'm like, oh, what would happen if I lift my ring finger? Oh, I like the sound of that. That's pretty cool.
See, that's your instincts working for you. See, that's what I'm saying. Sometimes if we play an instrument too long, we can start to get technical about it. And what you're doing is just by your naivete mm-hmm. of the instrument, but you're opening yourself to how it feels and how it sounds. That's a beautiful place to be. And sometimes that's what you fight to get back to. The more you understand something, your brain goes into gear, and all you ever want is that right there, that connection. And you always have to me, it feels like it's a constant trick, like you're tricking mm-hmm. yourself into not thinking so much and feeling. And you were doing it, see, automatically.
It's really cool. And the other part about that is it doesn't matter what it's called, it's what calls you, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't matter what the chord's called, it's what calls out to you. And I can relate to that because I wrote, like, in point of reference, I purposely wrote 3 songs on an instrumental album in DADGAD tuning where I didn't have any idea what chords I was playing, but at the same time, I was going for finger positions and tones.
And just kind of feeling your way through
it.
And
you knew the name of the chord, or you had an idea.
That first one, yeah.
Exactly.
I think. I probably better go back and check it.
But you knew the sounds that you desired.
Mm-hmm.
And it set the framework, the foundation for this amazingly beautiful song.
Well, thank you. It's a song that pulls together some of the feelings and things that some of my friends were sharing with me about things they've been going through, anxiety and depression, and for some of them on a pretty serious level. And I was trying to capture that in the song. I chose not to come out and say the word suicide, but I know some of my friends that I'm referring to when I was writing the song anyway, that have struggled with that, with thoughts about that. And it just felt like that was how that song was supposed to come together. It felt like the words were given to me and the chords came fairly easily. I do remember that chord sheet when I first brought it here to work on the scratch vocals. It had some notes, like have Michael help me figure out what this is. So I'd like to have the chord sheets kind of cleaned up so that if I'm going to play it with the band, they can actually read the chord sheet. But there was definitely notes in that one. I'm like, I'm going to need his help on this. One of my favorite memories of that song was when we recorded the scratch vocals. The song was only about maybe 10 days old, and the three of us were in our mastermind week. Our friend Courtney Von Drehle from Portland was here with us, and we'd been working on various topics around music business, and we'd been talking about personality types and how to communicate with different personalities. We had been working on music and preparing for the concert that we did at the end of that week. For a couple days of that week, we were here at Michael's studio as part of our mastermind. And we sort of collectively got the idea, hey, while Courtney's here in town, why don't let's see if we can capture that song and have him play an accordion part. Because I had already thought that Sanity's Edge would lend itself well to an accordion part, and Courtney is my accordion coach and I take lessons via Zoom.
Brilliant musician.
Oh my gosh, he's awesome. And he also is a multi-instrumentalist, plays sax and guitar and bass.
But in my opinion, another way to look at it from my perspective is he is to accordion what Michael is to guitar.
So I didn't really have the song quite ready for layering in other tracks because we hadn't even done the scratch vocals yet. And so this is where Scott and Courtney and I enjoyed watching you work, Michael. You pulled all of that together so quickly.
Yeah, because I always think when somebody's going to play something, it can't, what is it? You have to set the mood. And it's like, and I realized, we're not even really there yet. It's all these functional instruments that are placeholders, just kind of showing the outline. But when somebody's doing a part, I can feel what they're feeling where, like, I wouldn't want to be left with a sterile track. How are you really going to get a good take out of him if we're just giving him a sterile track? And then it's like, so the best, you just try to think to yourself, like, well, I think a bass would be important, and then a nice beat, and just try to come up with a good little beat that grooves, just some universal thing that feels good to that song. And then, but that bass line I think is always important when somebody's doing something, whether you're singing a vocal or you're playing an instrument. You can really set the tone just by that bass guitar and what it's doing. So I knew we had to warm it up. And you dim the lights. It's almost like it's part psychology, right? Like when you're doing something, you're technically getting the track, but it's a little bit of psychology where you're trying to go like, I want this person to really feel where this track's going. You make sure that vocal for this particular song got to have a little reverb. When he's hearing it, it needs to feel ethereal. And then when he connects with it, like I'm just sitting there going, yeah. That's the stuff. Yeah, he's got it. Yeah.
It was phenomenal. I remember that. I'll never forget that night. I mean, just sitting in the studio and listening to him create to what you created for him to play to. And Vickie.
It was a magical evening for me. It was my favorite moment of that week, partly because all three of you guys were here, a part of it. The scratch vocals went smoothly. That was kind of a bit of a surprise to me. And I had to do some deep breathing because I was also a little intimidated because I typically like to record without people in the studio. I don't like it when somebody's sitting on the couch.
Even your husband.
Yeah, I don't like it when you're here. It's harder for me if we're at another studio where there's people on the other side of the glass. I can do it, but it's just harder for me. And I have to kind of get in this space in my head to just be the only person there. And I didn't have to. I was like looking around going, this is so cool to be in this room recording this really special song. And it was going so smoothly. And Scott, you captured a little bit of that on video.
I did.
I was appreciative.
I don't know if it'll be possible, but it might be to add some pictures to your notes or something within our podcast.
Yeah, well, I'll figure out a way to share some of those
would
in
be
the
really
show
cool.
notes.
I think it would mean a lot to people to feel through the visualization, not only our verbalization, but the visualization of what we were experiencing that evening. It was
Courtney has talked, Michael, you mentioned setting the mood. Courtney's talked about that a few times, about how you were able to do that with the studio, with the lighting. And I think you lit some candles, or Courtney did. I can't remember, but we had some candles going. And if you haven't listened to the song Sanity's Edge yet, when you do listen, that will make sense, I think, that it was a neat part of everything. So it started with the scratch vocals. That went smoothly. And then I didn't. I'm looking at Michael. He added the bass line. And I had never worked with you like that before, because you hadn't heard it until I sang those scratch vocals. So you just kind of rolled your chair the other direction, so you were facing me, and I was calling out the chords ahead of when you were going to need to play the notes on the bass.
We got to get that baby done stat.
Yeah.
Courtney's here and we're going to hit it. But it's like, but if we get a good feel and a good groove, and I know that if you could feel that, like if you could just feel, even though that's not the bass track that I want to use in the end, but it just kind of groove it, just make it feel good. Let him get lost in it. And he did get lost in it.
Did.
And it's like, and I don't know, maybe he'd get lost in anything, but I'd like to think if things are too sterile, they'll just play a little more rigid. And it's like, and if you can get them lost in the flow of things, then so it's just adding those basic elements that start to create that flow. The whole song doesn't have to be done, but it's just like just enough. You want to melt into it, and you want to just kind of float around with it a little bit, and he did. And then there's those, I remember we just let the tracks go. We weren't really trying to edit anything. We just did track after, just said like, let's do it again. And it's like, by the time you do it 3 times, you just had all these little special moments that were just his special moments because nothing was thought about. He was just connecting with his instrument. He was connecting with what he was hearing. And it's like, those are the things that tickle me. And then when I'm sitting there, I'm like, yes, that. And it's so from each take, you're just taking, you go like, that was a little moment, here's a little moment. And then by the time you put them all together and comp them, then you're like, oh, all these little special moments. That was just him just connecting. You know? Yes.
We were feeling it. Like even before you got to that stage where you were comping the tracks that you had captured, we were all feeling that, oh, that's it. There it is. Oh my gosh, this is so beautiful. And I think probably any one of his takes would have been beautiful. They were just gorgeous.
I didn't know accordion could be used in that way. It was very, very, I know. It's like
He's
going
picking
on record
on the accordion. He's not picking on Courtney. He's picking on me, the accordion player of the 3 of us.
There's too many accordion jokes out there in the world. I've been poisoned.
The strange part about it is, though, I mean, anybody that hears that take and hears that song has an incredible respect for what that instrument can do and the power of the instrument through that song. It's a great example. Just phenomenal.
Courtney can make an accordion breathe, and he did that night.
One of his soulful accordion. See, you wouldn't equate soulful with accordion. You would just think fun. Accordion sounds fun. Oh, he brought out the soul in the accordion.
Yes. One of the Courtney and I met at accordion camp, and go ahead, Scott. Make fun of that.
That's like, no, I'm not making fun of it. It's just like one of the greatest lines ever that 99% of the people listening to this podcast have never heard before. It's like llama agility course. It's one of those phrases.
I've done one of those too.
Exactly. Accordion camp, accordion to Vickie is like so much fun.
It is.
And she met Courtney there.
Yeah, I go every year. What was I even going to say?
Well, I think we're going to talk about, because we haven't got to the substance of.
Well, hang on. I think I was going to tell you that I met Courtney at accordion camp. Courtney has a band called 3-Legged Torso.
Yes.
So if you want to catch some of his music, you can look them up. And if he was here talking with us right now, I know, Michael, he would be saying something about, he loved that you beatboxed the click track, that you created it just specifically for that song, for that evening.
Got to go fast. See, we got to move fast. We don't have time to set some drum groove. So then I'm glad that he was inspired by it and stuff like that. But it's almost the quickest way. Sometimes when you're in the studio doing something, if you drag something out, you can kill a lot of momentum. And I've just always been big on, let's move it along. We got to move it along because I don't want people waiting on me. I don't want the spirit of the moment to get lost in that silence. And it's like, and you want to just stay connected. So the more things can just move along in the right feel. And then, so sometimes beatboxing has to be the, we don't have time to get you a good old percussion track. So let's just make it happen.
Well, it worked out so beautifully.
2, 1, 2, 3.
Scott, I think you were probably mentioning the special section at the end of the song. Is that what you were referring to?
That, but the main thing I was thinking about, you touched upon it earlier in this podcast episode, was the message of the song. Mm-hmm. And, I can talk openly. I, throughout my life, have had episodes of, and very serious episodes of depression and anxiety where, when you're the person that's going through that, a lot of times, a lot of what's happening to you, you cannot make sense of. Mm-hmm. But the overwhelming message in the song is about, okay, you recognize this, you know it's happening, you're okay. There are other people there with you. Just that moment, know you're okay in that moment, and move to the next moment, and then the next moment. Mm-hmm. And at the very end, something very special happens in the song. I'm going to let you talk about that.
Scott and I were heading to the studio to record some more keeper vocals and some harmony vocals for this project. And the idea, sometimes ideas, you can't see me doing this, but I'm just kind of pulling my hand across my chest and over my heart. I feel like these ideas, sometimes words just come across my heart like, here's what you need to do next. And I heard as we were driving to the studio, you need to have several voices sing that. The last time you go through the chorus, have several voices. So Michael set up a situation where we did gang vocals where the three of us, Michael, Scott, and myself, were singing under a mic you put above the three of us. So you were capturing all three of us together. We went through it once and then you flipped the mic. Mm-hmm. Tell us
technical stuff, right? Like a stereo spread, but then just like flipping it around to get it so we didn't have to change our position. But you're just trying to get as much of us in a big chorus as possible. And the fact that when you were driving and you thought of that, you're like, I think it needs to be that. That's the cool thing. See, a song never done, it's crafted. And when people have a feeling about the song, you got to honor that. That's like, and the fact that it meant something to you, I knew it was something that was going to be, it needs to be important because it's speaking to you in that way. Mm-hmm. And then we just kind of edit it so that we draw it out a little bit like that because that's where it needs to go. It doesn't need to get through it so quickly. We need to turn around a little bit and revisit that. Yeah. And it's a feeling you had and you need to honor that.
So one of the things I want to back up and say thank you for honoring that feeling. It has really made that song special to me, but also some of the feedback we've gotten from people who've heard it have appreciated that moment in the song.
Yeah, because what it represents is group support. Mm-hmm. The many voices. And what's even cooler, in my opinion, is the fact that you had an additional voice from another session from Lafayette at Rec Room Recording where Lee Anna Atwell went in and did some really cool things too. Mm-hmm. So the group was expanded and that support network was not just what we had in the room. That support for the song and or the meaning came from afar.
Yeah. I want to expand on that a little bit. Lee Anna plays with Scott and I in our band, and we have played with her in different groups and different configurations for many years. We've been friends for a long time. Beautiful, beautiful vocalist and
creative mind.
Yeah, very talented keyboard player and singer-songwriter. We spend a lot of time in the car together when we're driving to our band gigs. Leanna's usually with us, and we spent some of that time this summer listening to the mixes that Michael was creating for my songs. And I value her opinion very much. And she was listening to Sanity's Edge with us, and she said, Vickie, are you open to an idea for that song? I'm like, well, certainly. She goes, I think maybe you ought to try responding, putting something in there, another track where your voice is calling out, and let it almost be like a call and response. And so the next time when I was back in the studio with Michael, we kind of crafted that. It was just a single word I was singing, but that was where that came about.
Isn't that the beauty of, like, when you're letting other people listen? As I would say, when people are inspired to say something, I love listening to that because they're inspired to say it. If you force an opinion out of somebody, everybody can come up with an opinion. That's when you got to watch it. What I love doing, if I was playing a track for somebody, is just play it. And if they feel moved to say something, chances are that that's something important. If you forced it and you said, tell me something about this, is there anything I can possibly do? It's like, everybody's got an opinion. Maybe it's, that's not inspired. So that was nice when she said that. It triggered you, and it makes the end result, puts it where it needs to be.
So I also want to say thank you to Lee Anna for learning Courtney's part on melodica. When we played the CD release concert, Courtney wasn't able to travel back from Portland to be a part of that. And so Lee Anna got a melodica and learned his part. So it sounded a little different, but it was still cool to have that motif in the live performance of the song.
And, if anybody doesn't know what a melodica is, just Google it, and you'll see it's a cool little instrument.
It is. So that's a little of the behind the scenes and the inspiration for the song Sanity's Edge. Take a listen.
Will you catch me like before? I'm falling. What I bring, is it enough? Floating into unknown, these seas are getting rough. Are there words to break the code? Maybe